Everyone says our teenage years are supposed to be the happiest times of our life. But some of us teens have problems that can't be solved. And some of us have made mistakes that can't be fixed. We have some stories we would like to share with you tonight.
Rape. It's such a small word for such a horrible thing. You know, rapes aren't committed for sex. They're committed because a person wants control. Control over you, your life, my life. I was 14 when it happened. I pretended to be sick so I didn't have to go to school. I think my mom knew I was pretending, but she let me stay home anyway. She left for work at 7:30. I turned on the TV and went to get a soda. That's when I heard someone trying to get into the house. It was only 7:40, so I thought maybe my mom forgot something. I went to get the door for her, and that's when he pushed his way inside. I remember seeing the darkness in his eyes, and I know I saw the fear and pain in mine, but he didn't care. He got what he wanted. He had raped me, a horrible thing, and he never was caught, and it was so hard. He's still out there doing this to other people, and he's probably still out there watching me. And nobody should have to live with this, the fear and shame that I live with.
At that time in my life, nothing seemed to go right. I wasn't very pretty, I wasn't popular at all, and I never had a boyfriend. If that wasn't enough, my parents were divorced because of me, or at least that's what I thought. They always fought and screamed at each other. I remember I used to hide in my bedroom under the covers and cry. I didn't think it would ever end. But even through all this, my best friend Audrey assured me she'd be there. Friends forever, through thick and thin. And then one day, her family just packed up and left, without even telling me. I got a letter from Audrey saying that she was sorry that she didn't say goodbye to me in person. She thought it would have been too painful for the both of us. Her dad got a promotion and she had to move to Louisiana. That was the last straw. I waited and I prayed for things to get better, but they didn't. They got worse. That's when I decided I was going to kill myself. I planned it out and then I acted on it. One day, when nobody was home, I went to the bathroom, I opened the medicine cabinet, and I drank a whole bottle of Chloraseptic, what was left of the Advil, and most of the Dimetap. I remember falling to the floor and passing out. My family found me and they rushed me to the hospital. I realize now that trying to kill myself was not the way to get rid of my problems. I have my whole life ahead of me, and for once, I'm looking forward to it. Nobody should have to deal with what I dealt with.
She was always there for me. Every morning she'd get me up by saying, "Wake up, sweetie, breakfast is on the table." All of a sudden she wasn't there anymore. She was lying in a hospital bed with tubes in her arms and nose. My mother had cancer, a horrible disease. She was dying, slow and painful. I'd visit her often, bring her flowers and her favorite magazines. Every time I'd go, she looked sicker and paler. We talked for hours about her dreams for me and my feelings about her dying. They were the most painful hours of my life. When my mother died, December 25th, 1995, Christmas Day, we left her presents under the tree, waiting for her to open them. Of course, we knew she wouldn't and never would. It's hard, because I didn't even get to spend one last Christmas with her. Her memory is still so vivid in my mind. Every morning I wait for her to burst in my bedroom, open the curtains and say, "Wake up, sweetie, breakfast is on the table."
It may be hard to tell now, but I used to be anorexic. It may not seem like a big deal to you, but it is, or at least it should be. Anorexia is a tragic thing. I used to be the girl to date. I was really popular and had lots of friends, but I had always been insecure about my weight. I wasn't fat, but whenever somebody would say something to me about my weight or my appearance, I'd get really defensive. I really liked this guy, Jim. One of his friends told me he thought I was fat. From that moment on, I was obsessed. I cut my eating down once a day and exercised all the time, trying to get one of those perfect model bodies, all just to prove myself to Jim. Then I starved myself and only drank water. I started looking really sick and tired. The kids at school started to talk about how skinny I was looking. When my mom finally realized what was happening to me, she took me to a hospital that made me eat. That's when I became bulimic. Every time I ate, I would throw up. This went on for 5 months. I was 5'5" and 78 pounds. It was gross. You could actually see most of my bones. I'm still fighting it now, but it's hard. Really hard. The saddest thing about it is that I went through all this just to prove myself to a guy who definitely wasn't worth it.
It was in 1989. My mom remarried Luke. He seemed like your normal average guy. Medium height, brown eyes, brown hair, average income. You know, your average man. He was the least likely candidate to be a child molester, but he was. And despite his outer shell, he was a scary, sick man. The night it all happened, I had just gotten out of the shower when he said he needed to talk to me. But I was only in a towel, so I asked if I could change. But he was persistent. He told me that my dog had been hit by a car and died instantly. As I started to cry, he came over. He slowly started to fondle me. I was mortified, so I struggled, but he put his hand over my mouth and told me that if I ever told anybody, he'd kill me. After he left my room, I went to the bathroom and threw up. I felt so sick that night, and the next day at school, I was so exhausted that I went home early. That night at dinner, he acted like nothing had ever happened. I hated him. I hated him for ripping away my self-respect, my dignity. But one night while he was hurting me, my mom walked in. She screamed at him. She told him that she'd kill him with her bare hands, but he just laughed at her. It was all so sudden. She grabbed the scissors off my desk and stabbed him. He died there on my bedroom floor. My mom was in charge of the murders because it was self-defense. We've moved away now. I'm at a new school, making new friends. I'm slowly piecing my life back together, and hopefully one day I'll regain what I lost 3 years ago, myself.
I used to think the worst news you could hear is you have cancer, or you only have 3 weeks to live. Well, I was wrong. The worst news is definitely you're pregnant at the age of 14. I never thought it happened to me, but it did. You see, I met Jason at a school dance. He was so cute. We danced all night long. I knew we'd be together for a long time, but I never planned on marrying him. Then one night, he turned to me and asked me a question. Will you prove to me that you love me? I was stunned. I had never planned on a physical relationship before. He told me to think about it and tell him the next day. I said I would. That night I remember laying in my bed thinking to myself, am I really in love with him? Am I ready to give up one thing I can only give up once? I knew I was in love with him, but not enough to sleep with him. However, the more I thought about it, I realized, what if he dumps me for somebody who will? I didn't want to take the chances of that happening, so I knew the only way to keep him was to sleep with him. One night, we went to his house, and it happened. Afterwards, Jason and I both decided that we would date, and that's it, just date. A couple of months passed, and I started to think I was pregnant. So my friend took me to a clinic, and when the test came out positive, I was shocked. I knew I had to tell my parents, and when I told my mom, she freaked out, and I started crying. Why'd this have to happen to me? I only slept with him once. My parents were so mad at me. And you know what? Telling Jason was even harder. You know what he did? He dumped me. Can you believe it? He dumped me. And now I have a 3-month-old to raise all by myself. And just in case you don't know already, you're worth waiting for. I'm sorry nobody told me that before.
I remember how it all started. I was in 7th grade and a complete and total loser, or at least what I thought was a complete and total loser. Okay, so I was confused. But aren't most people confused at this stage in their life? All I wanted to do was fit in. Have friends, be popular. So when I met Mina, the coolest person in school, I thought, at last, my chance to be someone. Pretty stupid. I eventually learned what Mina's idea of cool was. Right now, as I look back at the steep step of pain from my poor judgment, I have to laugh. Laugh at how anxious I was to be accepted by my peers, when in fact, they were equally as self-conscious as me. I wish I had known it at the time. All I started doing was smoking cigarettes occasionally. Then I ended up smoking about 2 packs a week and drank whenever I could. I started doing marijuana. I ended up doing bigger drugs like heroin, crack, and acid. I thought I was being cool, but I always found it weird how I never got any new reactions from my friends. I ended up in rehab twice and almost died once. It took all of this for me to finally realize that no matter how cool drugs seem, they aren't. Life is so much cooler.
My mom had always said, forgive and forget. I went by that motto until January 26, 1996, the saddest day of my life. I had always thought my stepdad Tom was such a great guy. He was a police officer, always helping people and saving lives. It was December 31st, 1994. Tom had just come home from a bad day at work. Kelly and I were doing the dishes. I handed her a glass to dry, and she accidentally dropped it. Tom was furious. He started to scream hurt, and she started to cry. Before I knew it, he was throwing his fists at her. I tried to stop him, but it was impossible. My mom never found out, and we didn't tell her. From that day on, he hit us a lot. Most of the time, actually. We tried to stay away from him. Mostly, I just tried to keep Kelly away from him. I mean, she was only 8 years old, and I loved her too much to let him hurt her. But in the end, it hurt us both. When people would ask about the scrapes and bruises, we would make up excuses like, oh, I fell down the stairs, or I ran into something. It was January 26, 1996. Tom threw me on the bedroom floor and just started hitting me for no reason, just because he liked to, I guess. Then my mom walked in. As she tried to get to the phone for help, Tom took out his gun and pulled the trigger. The combination of the pain from him hitting me and seeing my mother dying on the floor made it hard for me to move, but I managed to get to the phone for help. Tom is now in jail for life, and Kelly and I live with my grandmother. As for my mom, she's living in heaven. I still remember my mom saying, forgive and forget. Let me just be the one to say, it's hard to forgive and impossible to forget.
I went to a party, Mom. I remembered what you said. You told me not to drink, Mom, so I drank soda instead. I really felt proud inside, Mom. Like you said I would, I didn't drink and drive, though the others said I should. I knew I did the right thing, Mom. I knew you were always right. Now the party is finally ending, and everyone is driving out of sight. As I got into my car, Mom, I knew I'd get home in one piece, because of the way you raised me, so responsible and sweet. I started to drive away, Mom, but as I pulled out onto the road, the other car didn't see me, Mom, and hit me like a load. As I lay there on the pavement, Mom, I hear the policeman say, the other guy is drunk, Mom, and now I'm the one who'll have to pay. I'm lying here dying, Mom. I wish you'd get here soon. How could this happen to me, Mom? My life just burst like a balloon. There is blood all around me, Mom, and most of it is mine. I hear the medic say, I'll die in a short time. I just wanted to tell you, Mom, I swear I didn't drink. It was the others. The others didn't think. He was probably at the same party as I. The only difference is, he drank, and now I will die. Why do people drink, Mom? It can ruin your whole life. I'm starting to feel sharp pains just like a knife. The guy who hit me is walking, Mom, and I don't think it's fair. I'm lying here dying, and all he can do is stare. Tell brother not to cry, Mom. Tell Daddy to be brave. And when I get to heaven, put Daddy's girl on my grave. Someone should have told him, Mom, not to drink and drive. If only they had told him, I would still be alive. My breath is getting shorter, Mom. I'm becoming very scared. Please don't cry for me, Mom. When I needed you, you were always there. I have just one last question, Mom. Before I say goodbye, I didn't drink and drive, so why am I the one to die?
always used to say I had the coolest parents. They were so cute together. I thought so too until January 4th, 1995. I came home from school really happy because I had made straight A's on my report card. When I walked inside, my parents were sitting on the couch. My mom's eyes were really red like she'd been crying. They told me to come sit down, then they told me the worst news. They were getting divorced. I was shocked. Why? They hardly ever fought. After my mom said that my dad cheated on her and that the trust was gone, there was no more relationship left. After I heard that, I cried and cried. They went to court for custody of me, and my mom got full custody. My dad got visitation rights every Saturday. They tried to put me in the middle of their fights a lot, but I wouldn't listen. I thought people look at me differently now, but they don't. People get divorced every day. It's a sad statement, but it's true.
Parents, please pay attention to your children when they say that they have a problem. Don't ever ignore the importance of listening to the cry from within.
Hello there. Hi. Is everybody happy today? Do you know why we're here? Maybe you don't. All right, we'll tell you.
We come to you as actors, as most delightful actors, as actresses and actors, as the case may be. We're here to tell a story, a most delightful story, a strange and mystic story, as you soon will see. Right here we have a prince, a most extraordinary prince. He's most extraordinary since he doesn't say a word. And here we have a king and queen as grand as you have ever seen. Sometimes they're kind, sometimes they're mean, and often quite absurd. And wizards, count them, 1, 2, 3. They're very wise, as you can see. They're masters of wiseology, which makes them quite unique. And last of all, a maiden fair, who in our story has to share both happiness and deep despair, because the prince will speak.
No, no, no. This will never do. Never, never, never. This is no way to tell a story.
It isn't?
No, no, no. You people make up these rhymes, which I will admit are very clever and all that, but nobody can tell what's going on.
No, he's right.
Very confusing.
They move too fast.
My, the king is right. No, no, no. This is no way to tell a nursery rhyme or a fairy tale or,
A fable?
yes, or a fable. I beg your pardon. Is this to be a fable? I don't know. Do you?
Is it a nursery rhyme?
I'm not at all sure.
Perhaps it's simply a story. How can one tell?
Well, yes. Let me think. Now, I recall the story has a moral to it. That is, if it teaches us a lesson, then it's a fable. By the way, does this story have a moral to it?
I don't know, do you?
I'm not at all sure.
I don't know. As you can see, no one seems to know so how are we to tell if this story is to be a fable or a nursery rhyme?
Then how in my royal kingdom am I to find out? Tell me that.
Your Grace, if I may.
Yes, yes, what is it, young maiden?
We could proceed.
Proceed, you mean begin to tell the story?
Yes, sire. That way we would all discover whether our story is a fable or a nursery rhyme. Clever girl, who is she?
Who knows, just one of my subjects. But the important thing is begin the story. That's a capital idea.
You're so clever, dear.
Yes, I know. But the important thing is begin the story. But for heaven's sakes, let's go about it sensibly. You there!
Me, sire?
Yes, you. By the power of being your royal sovereign, I command you to be the narrator of our, well, whatever it turns out to be. Now proceed to narrate.
Your Majesty, if I may.
Yes, yes, what is it, young maiden?
I was trying to suggest, Your Majesty, that we ask our young friends here to listen to our story and let them discover if it has a moral to it. Perhaps when it's all over, they'll be able to tell us whether our story is a fable or a nursery rhyme, since I'm sure none of us will be able to tell.
That is an excellent idea, and I'm glad I thought of it. By the power vested in me, the king, I command you to listen to our story to see if there is a moral to it. That is, to see if it teaches us a lesson. By all means, find one if you can. Now, Mr. Narrator, if you will please begin.
Very well, Your Majesty. Once upon a time,
Now, that's the way to start a story.
once upon a time, a long time ago, in a kingdom in the air, or somewhere, there was a king and a queen and a very strange young prince. Now, the young prince was not strange because he was young, although he was indeed young, and he was not strange because he was a prince, although he was very princely. He was strange because he would not talk.
Would not talk?
No, he wouldn't talk, not a word.
My, that is strange indeed.
Not so strange once you understand the situation.
Whatever do you mean?
Just watch.
Good morning, son. How are you today? Did you rest well? What do you plan to do today? That's nice, dear. Well, I must be going. I'm busy, busy, busy.
As you can see, the prince didn't get to say a word. What a pity! It was the same thing when he saw his father, the king.
Good morning, son. How are you? What do you plan to do today? Where's my breakfast? Where's my lunch? Did you want to speak to me anything to me, my boy? Where are my cabinet members? Where are my soldiers? That's nice, my boy. I must be going.
I'm sure you noticed that. Once again, the prince didn't get to say a word.
Yes, we noticed.
Well, I can see why. The king and the queen never gave the prince a chance to say anything.
And so it went, day in and day out. The poor prince never got the chance to say a word. Then one day, as the king and queen were strolling about the palace, they began to talk about their son, the prince.
My dear, have you spoken with our son today?
Yes, yes, of course. I speak to him every day.
Good. What does he have to say for himself?
Say? Why, he didn't have anything to say. He never has anything to say. Did you speak with him?
Of course. I always speak to him. I make it a chore to never let a day go by without taking some time to visit with the young prince.
Well, then, what does he say to you?
Say? Well, now that come to think of it, he never has anything to say to me either. Isn't that odd?
Very. You don't suppose there's anything wrong with the boy, do you?
Our son? Impossible. He is the crown prince. He will one day be king. There can't be anything wrong with the crown prince. Do you really think there is something wrong with him?
How awful! How terrible! What if it's true?
Call my court together. We must find out what is wrong with the prince.
So the king orders his court to assemble in the great hall. As soon as the court had assembled, the king made a pronouncement.
I have sad news for the kingdom. Very sad news indeed. Our son, the prince, is not able to speak.
Nonsense!
What's this?
I said nonsense. The problem isn't that the prince can't talk. The problem is that the prince won't talk.
Here, what's this? You say the problem is that the prince won't talk? Ridiculous! Do you know anything about this, my dear?
No, of course not. Why should I know about such things? Come to think of it, though, I don't recall that I ever asked the prince a really serious question, that is, a question that needed answering.
There's the problem there. We've never asked the prince anything important. Step forward, young man, step forward. Now tell us, what is on your mind? Well, speak up. Tell us what is wrong with you.
Speak up. Speak up!
Speak up. Speak. Why don't you say anything?
Please, everybody, give him a chance. Oh, dear. Now he'll never speak.
This is awful.
Yes, terrible.
Something must be done at once.
So the prince went off to see the wizard of noisology. The wizard was to find out if there was any reason why the prince wouldn't make a sound. find out if he has one.
That's the problem. I know, we can cut off his head and look inside.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I know, we can have a window installed in his neck. That way we can see inside.
Don't be silly. The king would never hear of such a thing.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Dear me, this really is a problem. I will approach the matter very scientifically. Ow! There you are. Noise. Oh, we must inform the king and queen.
So the wizards hurry back to the palace to tell the king and queen.
Majesties, we have returned with the royal prince, and we are happy to report that he is entirely cured.
Lots of noise! Loud as a cannon.
Then why won't the young prince speak? Your Majesty, if I may.
Not now, not now. Can't you see we have a problem here?
So the prince went off, this time to see the Wizard of Voiceology. The wizard was to find out if there's anything wrong with the prince's voice.
Now, we've already determined that the prince has a noise box, because we all heard him make a noise. But that doesn't prove he has a voice. Not at all. It's a well-known fact that a noise box and a voice are not at all the same thing.
True, very true.
But how do you find out if he has one? That is the problem.
That is the problem indeed. This matter calls for some very deep thinking. What? Did you hear that? He sighed. Yes, he did. He sighed. It is a well-known fact that when a sigh must have a voice. Come, quickly. We must go and inform the king and queen.
So the wizards hurried back to the palace to inform the king and queen.
Your Majesties, I have returned with the prince, and I'm happy to report this. He is entirely cured.
He's entirely cured.
Then why won't he speak? Your Majesty, if I may.
Not now, young maiden. Can't you see that we must find out what is wrong with Prince?
So the prince went off, this time to see the Wizard of Noiseology. The wizard wants to find out, well, to put it quite bluntly, to see if the young prince was crazy. Now this problem is going to have to require a great deal of thinkability. Now we know that the prince has noise box because we heard him make noise. But that doesn't prove that he has a brain. Yeah, and we know that the prince has a voice because we heard him sigh. But that doesn't prove that he has a brain either.
Not at all. Not in the least.
So the problem remains, how do we find out if the prince has a brain? This problem is going to have to require a great... Now let me see.
Yes.
I think...
Yes!
I think... I don't know what to do next.
Why don't you give him a puzzle to solve? What? If you want to see if the prince has a brain, why don't you give him a puzzle to solve?
Yes, that's a very good idea. That's exactly what I would do. Let me see. Oh, I got one. Now, if a bird were to fly up into the sky, which way would he go?
He says up.
Yes, that's right. And if a bird were to fall for no reason at all, which way would he go?
He says down.
Yes, he is right again. Okay, now for the hardest part. See if we can get it. If a wheel on the ground were to roll all around, which way we go?
He says in a circle.
He got it again. The prince does indeed have a brain. Why, he slides the fox.
Clever young man.
Good head on his shoulders.
Now let's get back and inform the king and queen.
And that is exactly what they reported when they went to tell the king and queen.
Your Majesty, I have come to report that the prince does indeed have a brain. Why, he slides a fox.
Clever young man.
Good head on his shoulders.
Then why won't he speak?
It seemed to be a problem. There was nothing at all wrong with the prince, but still, he wouldn't say a word.
Your Majesty, if I may.
Not now, young maiden. Can't you see we have a problem here? This could bring ruin to my kingdom.
What will the neighbors say?
The prince who would have talked, I've never heard of such a thing.
The king had a problem. He had nothing to do. Wait, what was he to do? It was a puzzle, wasn't it?
very good at that, you know. Hear ye, hear ye!
Your Majesty.
Who is interrupting my proclamation?
It's me, sire. I thought you should know. Royal proclamation is supposed to be issued in rhyme.
And run.
Yes, sire. All the better fairy tales do it that way.
Oh, very well. Ringle, dingle, dangle, do. I make this proclamation to you. If you can teach the prince to speak within a fortnight,
That's too easy.
then wealth and fame will fill your life, and the lovely maiden will be your wife. How's that for a proclamation?
You're so clever, dear.
Yes, I know.
After the king made his proclamation, everyone went to bed and to sleep on it. That is, everyone but the prince and the maiden.
Hello.
What? What was that?
I said hello.
Oh, you can talk.
Yes, I've always been able to talk.
I thought so, all along. But why have you waited so long to say anything? Why won't you speak when you're before the king and queen?
It's a long story. You probably wouldn't be interested.
Oh, yes, I would. I would be very interested.
You would?
Yes, won't you please tell me?
Very well. You see, I want to talk, I really do. But before I can ever say anything, they always interrupt me. They never really act like they want to listen to what I have to say. And then, that is, when they finally stop talking long enough to listen to me, I get so angry I can't speak. Does that sound crazy?
No, that doesn't sound crazy at all. But you really should do something about it before things get even more confusing.
I would, but, well, I've gone so long now without talking to them, I don't know how to start.
Just blurt it out. The next time you have something to say, just blurt it out and make them listen to you.
Oh, I couldn't do that.
Why?
I'd be afraid.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that a royal prince is afraid of anything. At least that's what I've always been taught.
Oh, I'm not afraid of ordinary things like dragons and witches and deep, dark forests. I'm not even afraid of the wizards. I sort of think they're funny.
Then why are you afraid to speak your mind?
I'm afraid that people might laugh at me.
No one would ever laugh at you. No one in the whole wide world would ever laugh at a nice young man like you.
That's what I used to think. Then one day I realized if my own parents won't take the time to hear what I have to say, if my own friends won't listen to me, then perhaps what I have to say isn't worth saying at all.
No, that isn't true. You mustn't think that for a minute.
I wish I could believe that. I really do.
It's late and I must go. But tomorrow in court, promise me you'll speak. Just blurt it out.
I'll try.
Promise.
I can't promise because I've tried before. Honestly, I have. But for you, I will try again. Tomorrow, I will try to talk.
You can do it. I know you can. Good night.
Good night.
The following morning, the court assembled bright and early. The king was in a grumpy mood because it was so early and he hadn't had his breakfast yet.
To work! To work! Let's go! Then who's going to teach the young prince how to speak? By the way, where's the young prince? Oh, there you are, my boy.
Good morning, son. How are you?
Let's get on with it. Who is ready to teach the young prince how to speak?
Your Majesty.
Yes. What's the Wizard of Noisology? What is it?
I think that I can teach the prince to speak. That is, I can find the reason he doesn't.
Good. If you can, you receive the reward.
Oh, if only you can, we will be eternally grateful.
Yes, by all means, take the young prince along and get a batter. Return to the court as soon as you have completed your test. Now, where's my lunch? I'm as hungry as a bear!
So the prince went off to see the Wizard of Noisology. After studying the prince with a proper amount of concordance, she arrived at her solution. Aha, said the wizard.
Oh ho!
She added.
I see.
She finished.
The problem is perfectly clear. It's as plain as the nose on my face.
Sit down, my boy, and I'll explain.
You see, the problem is with noise. Because you are a prince, you wish to quiet. Your upbringing has been too gentle, too reserved. The mere idea of doing something so loud and boisterous as talking is beyond you. Therefore, I have arrived at the only solution. You must get used to noise. When you are used to noise, it will no longer bother you, and you will then be able to speak. Brilliant, if I do say so myself.
So the wizard proceeded to make a great deal of noise. As soon as the wizard finished making her noise, she took the young prince and they returned to the palace.
Your Majesty, I have returned with the royal prince, and I am happy to report that he is entirely cured.
Marvelous! Stupendous! How nice!
How wonderful to think that after all these years
kingdoms, we're finally going to get to hear what our son, the prince, has to say to us.
Step forward, young man, step forward. Now tell us, what is on your mind? Boom, 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 boom! Crash! Pop, pop! This is awful!
This is terrible. It's worse than before.
Your Majesties, if I may,
Yes, yes. Oh, it's the Wizard of Voiceology. What is it?
I believe I can teach us twins how to work, if you allow me to work with them.
Yes, yes, if you can, you'll receive all the reward and more. Now, take the prince along, get about it, return to the court as soon as you've completed your task.
Once again, the prince was off, this time to see the Wizard of Voiceology. After studying the prince with a proper amount of importance, he arrived at his solution.
Do, re, mi,
Sang the wizard.
fa, sol, la.
He added,
I understand the problem perfectly. It's as plain as the shoes on my feet. See, young man, and I'll explain. Being a prince and all, you're very naturally cultured and refined. When people talk, they can sound loud, harsh, and can even sound vulgar. That sort of thing is too common for a prince. Therefore, I have come to my conclusion. When you are able to speak, you will be able to talk.
So the wizard proceeded to prince how to sing a lullaby.
The day is done, and my prayers are said, and my candles out. Then I go to bed, and I fall asleep, and I dream my dreams. Here's a secret that I've learned.
I can laugh and sing, and I'm not afraid, and no one will laugh at mistakes I've made. And people, when they give their love, they will have their love returned. So the wizard, being so delighted with the results of his work, could hardly wait to get back.
Your Majesty!
Said the wizard.
Your Royalness!
He added,
Your Royal Majestic Highness! I've returned with the prince, and I'm happy to report that he is entirely cured.
Marvelous, stupendous, how nice.
How wonderful.
Step forward, young man, step forward. Now tell us, what is on your mind?
When the day is done and my prayers are said and my candles out and I go to bed and I fall asleep and I dream my dreams, here's a secret that I've learned. I can laugh and sing and and no one will laugh at mistakes I've made, and people find when they give their love, they will have their love returned.
As you can see, that was definitely better than not saying anything at all. But as you can also see, the lullaby is put the king and queen asleep. Your Majesty. Wake up! What? Oh God, is dinner ready?
My dear, I have seemed to have fallen asleep. What an odd thing to do in the middle of the day.
Where were we? Oh, yes. You're about to say something, my boy.
But Your Majesty, he did speak, or almost the same thing. He sang us all a lullaby.
We can't have him singing a lullaby. Every time the king and I hear a lullaby, we fall right off to sleep.
I can't be falling off to sleep every time I want to have a conversation with the young prince. This is awful. This is terrible. Who is fixing lunch? Where's dinner?
Your Majesty, if I may have a word.
Yes, yes. Oh, it's the Wizard of Thinkology. What is it?
Well, Your Majesty, I have not had a chance yet, and I think I can succeed where the other wizards have failed.
Oh, if you can, you'll receive all the reward I promised the others and more. By all means, take the young prince along and get about it. Return to the court as soon as you have completed your test. Now, where's my breakfast? Who's fixing lunch?
So the prince went off to see the Wizard of Thinkology. Being a very bright fellow, he almost immediately arrived at his solution.
I have it.
Said the wizard.
It's certain to work.
He added,
At least I hope so.
he finished.
The solution is simple. It's as plain as the hat on my head. The reason you don't speak is because you don't know it's not easy to always be wise and prudent, so I'm going to give you a solution that'll make you appear to be very wise. All you have to do is say yes!
Yes?
Yes! See, how clever my solution is. Everyone likes to have someone agree with them, especially the king's input. So all you have to do, baby, is say yes.
Yes?
See? Just keep on saying yes, and I'm gonna be a rich man. Give me the maiden, baby. Say it.
Yes!
Yeah! I feel good.
The wizard was so happy he could hardly wait to get back to the palace to receive his reward.
Your Majesty, I have come to inform you that the wizard here is entirely human.
Marvelous! Stupendous! How nice!
I'm almost afraid to hope this time, but if it really is true.
It's true, Madame, sire. Just ask him any question, and you will see.
Very well. Are you ready to speak to us, my boy?
Yes.
Excellent! Now what have you to say?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said yes again. Is that all you have to say?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said yes again.
Oh dear, I have a terrible feeling this isn't going to turn out well.
Yes.
This is awful!
Yes.
This is terrible.
Yes.
Is this all the Wizard of Thinkology taught you how to say?
Yes.
Oh, now hear of it! How can I have a prince who only says yes to me? How will I be able to tell him apart from the rest of my court? Everybody says yes to me!
I'm sorry.
I would rather he didn't speak at all.
No, Your Majesty, you mustn't say
I
that.
must not say that because it is exactly how I feel.
And perhaps this is the way our story would end. If the maiden hadn't thought of something. Just look at her. She has definitely thought of something everyone else has overlooked. Let's see what she's up to.
Your Majesty, sire, madam, I would like to make a request.
It's that pretty young maiden again.
Yes, what is it?
I would like permission to leave the court.
Leave the court?
Permanently?
Yes.
But why?
There seems to be no reason for me to stay here. I would like permission to leave the court and travel to some other land.
Well, yes, I can see no reason to detain you. You may go.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Don't go.
He talked!
He actually talked!
Oh my God.
Why? Why do you want me to stay?
I want you to stay because you're nice. I like you.
Astounding!
He did it again.
So he did! I heard him!
I wonder if it's catching.
Is that the only reason you want me to stay?
No. I want you to stay because I like you. You're nice.
This is the festive day of the kingdom. I decree that everybody be happy.
And so our story ends, as all good stories should. Everyone pleased. The king was pleased, the queen was pleased, even the wizards were pleased. And our prince, who didn't talk, now began to talk at the drop of a hat.
Pardon me, sire. It seems your hat has fallen off.
And the prince and the maiden lived happily ever after.
Lived happily ever after. Now that's the proper way to end a story.
Or a fable.
Yes, or a nursery rhyme.
But which was it? A nursery rhyme, a fable, or a fairy tale?
Well, yes. Now let me think. Now I recall the story has a moral to it. That is, if it teaches us a lesson, then it's a fable. By the way, does this story have a moral to it?
I don't know, do you?
I'm not at all sure.
Who knows?
How can one tell?
Perhaps it's simply a story.
This is all very puzzling. Very puzzling.
My dear, as you can see, no one seems to know. So how are we to tell if this story is to be a fable or a nursery rhyme?
Wait, everybody. That is what we asked them to discover. They are supposed to tell us if the story has a moral or not.
Well, what do you think?
Does this story have a moral or not?
Were you listening?